All good. Yeah.
All right, man. So we're leaning into your release of your new album, "The Shoulder to Lean On."
The shoulder you lean on.
The shoulder you lean on. Excuse me. Tell us a little bit about the getting up to this point. You've had dropped a few singles over the last couple months. People have been watching. What's it been like getting
Getting
almost to the point of the release? We're teetering.
yeah, so I mean this whole process really begins at the beginning or sorry, like kind of on the early 2017. Um, just kind of with a one-off session that I had with Jay Keller, the producer of the album. And from there over the course of last year we were just emailing a bunch and working on a bunch of different things, and over the course of the year we just kind of started to gather a pool of songs that we really liked. And I took a few trips to Los Angeles as well to work with him in his studio, and so over the course of a little under a year we kind of got a nice little reservoir of things to at least think about. So it really starts to come into focus because I didn't totally have a game plan for the year, since we dropped Lightwork EP in December, and after that I had a few things that I was sitting on and I knew we had to do something, but I didn't really have a sense that this was necessarily going to happen this year. But just kind of in talking with my manager, and then also with JP, we figured this was probably going to be the move we should do for this year. Because I stress I have so much music that I'm sitting on, so it's
I feel
kind
like
of
every time
yeah
I talk to you, you always have way too much music you're sitting on. You have like
yeah.
three projects always in the can, ready to go. Is there ever a point like you're not creating or somewhere in the
Well,
studio?
yeah. I mean, the last few months getting this album together, it's been a lot of not making music. Like today, before I came here, was my first time even feeling comfortable sitting down to do anything. Just because to me, it's a special experience. I really enjoy it, and I enjoy it most when I can really sit and lock in on the process of it
Mm.
and not really be bothered by other things. And I also know what's been necessary has been to focus on this album and not necessarily make more new things to
Right.
like be distracted by, which is it's been tough, but um ultimately I think it's been the right choice. And I think my kind of litmus for if I'm still still holding on and still going strong is if I randomly get inspired by something and I'm making something cool kind of a couple times a week just casually, then I think we're doing all right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, um, with with this coming together though, it's been really awesome to kind of with the opening salvo records, like the records I did with Carl Carell, Dangerous and Rainy Days,
Mm-hmm.
that little two song effort. It was awesome to kind of just show people what I've been working on, kind of providing two kind of separate but relative things.
Right.
And I get, as someone said to me a long time ago when I was in a serious hoarding phase, that people don't know what you have unless you put it out there for them to
Right.
hear it, or unless you show it to them. But like one of those is way more casual than the other.
Well, it's also like
Um,
you kind of came up in like that like cross section, like the SoundCloud mixtape era, right? Like where they kind of crossed ways, and I feel like does that influence the way you release music? Because as much music as you have, I mean, people dump music all the time. Like SoundCloud is full of mixtapes and
yeah,
this and that, but it seems like you've kind of in the last few years slowed it down a little bit and taken more care with how you put things out.
I mean,
Not that you weren't before, but
oh
yeah.
no, it's not inaccurate. I think it's something where I I know I could just throw things out there, and that's totally a thing. But I also know what my standards are in terms of eliciting a response. If I'm going to be doing this, I want um, I want to know that it's at least been seen by somebody, and it even if it's like 10 people, or like it doesn't have to be like a crazy big number. It just as long as I see that it's caused a wave of some sort, then I'm that's kind of my standard for the moment. Which I keep the goals attainable, but also with each one kind of pushing it a little further. Okay, so we did this, so on to the next. So I think seeing people that have the ability to drop a lot of music and do crazy numbers and all that. I mean, that's so awesome, and I really appreciate people that can do it, and that would be really cool to be in I'd love to be in that place where I could do that. But I know for right now, I think the most important thing is really to take as much time as I need to a certain extent, getting things to where they are. The good news is, in terms of writing records and making records, it's become a real joy in terms of the process, just because I feel so much more comfortable in how I approach things,
Hmm.
and I have a whole spectrum of sounds I've experimented with at this point. So when it comes time to make something new, I mean, it's pretty easy to find a possibility. I just use my imagination for that. And I know that sounds like a really arrogant thing to say, probably, but like, I look for every day where things have gone kind of mediocre. I'm always happy that I'm able to at least get something out there. I mean, again, my whole thing, especially leading up to this moment and kind of what helped to build it, was just I made a point to hit the studio once a week starting like early last year, and that bled into like kind of probably like earlier this year, and then I had to kind of take a step back and move a little differently. But yeah, definitely like having that one day a week that I could really just give my all, and that was over at a studio in Logan Square, Fat Tongue, run by my
Hmm.
friend Joel Gutman. But yeah, having that as kind of my outlet allowed it to stay fresh, and while I like focused on like my other things that I do,
Right, right.
namely the promotions work and the event stuff. I would love if I had the luxury of being in the studio every day, but I also feel strongly that having these other experiences that are still inherently tied to this experience as like a creator and as someone who likes to get out in the world. I think it pairs nicely in terms of balancing myself and kind of giving myself a healthy perspective on what the art is, or what I can say in the art.
Well, 100%. I think like what the coolest thing about what you've done over the last few years is like you really carved out a spot for yourself. Like, I mean, you were voted number two rapper in Chicago to Chance the Rapper. Was that 2016?
2016,
The year you
yeah.
won the Grammys. So
That's true. That did happen there. Wow.
but I feel like you really like owned that ever since. You really become this kind of hometown guy in a lot of ways. Not that you ever weren't, but it's like you kind of since the last few albums have come out, you've really been at all the street fests. You've been like finding yourself higher and higher on those bills. What's it like to kind of have your city embrace you to this point where you can walk around and have that notoriety or have that name? You're
Uh,
just in the reader as well. Shout out
yeah.
Leor Galil.
Shout out Leor. Yeah, it's definitely. I would say there's no way I could say that I don't feel very supported.
Hmm.
I think I'm very much kind of in some early stages of something potentially, but you don't get on to the next thing without kind of moving at the pace you need to. And I really think a lot of things have really happened at the time that they should, and with the right projects.
Hmm.
And it feels nice to at least feel like there's progression in terms of like what opportunities I'm able to create for myself, but then also the different things I get to experience, just through all this. I I think, yeah, I don't know. I'm really grateful that I'm able to do this, because I know, considering that I've been doing this for over 8 years now, at least full on. A lot of people that I started with, aren't necessarily making music anymore, and um, it's something where the fact that I'm able to still create and to still have stuff that is paid attention to, and seems to be getting more attention with each thing. That's atypical. I,
Hmm.
I don't I don't think that's necessarily something that you'd call the norm. So um, I can't be anything but grateful that things seem to be going well, even as I get older. I mean, like the Reader headline said, I get better with age, and it's like I agree. I mean, because you got to have the utmost amount of gratitude for anything you get, because none of this is promised. My friend was saying to me years ago when I was bitching about something. He was like, you just cannot, just act like people owe you any of this stuff. And I was trying, I generally keep away from that sort of thinking. This is a long, long time ago, but he sensed that I was kind of leaning towards a more unproductive way of looking at things, and that's what friends are for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to like get to those points to figure out the way to play the game. I think as well.
The ugly moments.
Right.
Yeah.
The ugly moments are great at times.
I feel. Yeah, I don't know.
No, let's lean into the album though. Tell me about like putting this together. You said you weren't expecting it to come out this year.
It wasn't entirely. No, I mean, it. I'm glad that it did. Initially, I had been working on a project with the producer Walking Shoe, and I'm not going to talk about that a ton because I know at some point it is going to come out. So we'll keep it mysterious. But let's just say it's a really awesome collection of work, and initially, yeah. What's up?
I said we could trust.
Yeah,
we're supposed to have Walking Shoe on.
Please trust me. But yeah, so him and I have a really special project that we're sitting on, and that's gonna have its day. But with just this exact moment, this just felt like it was the right move to make, which is the sounds that needed to go out there. I think sort of like with the Vegas project, there was a pretty definite tone that I was going to not really be rapping on this project and kind of focus on vocals and all that. So I think that was really fun. It's a fun challenge. I mean, obviously I've been singing for a while now, but it's still something that I find to be kind of a fresh approach in terms of listening to production and like that being what you do versus barring out or whatever. I have a ton of records that aren't singing at all. I'm still making those records. It's just I'm trying to be more intentional when I do. I think that's a lot of words to be putting down, so you better mean them. I feel like, especially with what Jay Keller had, sound wise, it was cool because we were able to still maintain like a hip hop feel to it though, even while I'm approaching this kind of more from like a soul R&B kind of indie angle.
Well, tell me a little bit about that because you've been like creeping into that like different world for a little while. You've been taking like baby steps. Is this like where you're really jumping off a little bit more?
I mean, I think this is the most definite step in that direction. Understanding very fully. I mean, I'll be real. I used to get a little frustrated when I'd have people. Not that it was bad that they were referring to me as a rapper, because like I definitely am a rapper. But
that's interesting because people were just talking about Juice WRLD and how he was saying that. You see that?
Right. But see, here's the key difference. I am a rapper, but I
heard it here.
I prefer the term. I prefer the term MC. I look at that as I define that as the term microphone controller. And that's the most powerful thing I think you could be. So that allows you to do what you want. And in this instance, obviously, I come from a hip-hop background, so I'm going to include hip-hop music as part of what I do. I don't shy away from that association.
Right.
Like, I think I don't totally understand why people have to just make such definite cuts when obviously they're borrowing from the culture like that. I don't know. I think that's a little weak. Because trust me, I've had to think a lot about it. I'm seeing these.
I feel like everybody has their "I'm not a rapper" moment in their rap career.
Certainly.
Lil Wayne had that. Like everyone had. Childish Gambino's gone back and forth a million times about it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's look. I think it's understanding what face a person's putting out. I think in the same breath, if you're a creative person and you want to make something different, like you should be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
If people want to make different genres of things, go ahead.
Well,
like,
I think
that's not an issue to me.
I think that's why it's like a weird thing though to me, because it's like it's also like you could be a rapper and do whatever you want. Drake calls himself a rapper.
Because he
raps, but
raps.
He's very much a singer as well. Scorpion's
Right.
like a back-to-back album. So it's like I feel like the title, people get caught up in the titles. It doesn't really matter that much at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it doesn't matter, but I definitely think
That might be
to just have somebody outright disown or just disassociate when it's like obvious that that this is something that they do,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty weak.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I don't like
Just
it.
like going against the grain to go against the grain, say kind of.
I mean, it's just ignorant. It's not true what they're saying. And
Right.
you know, again, you know, I'm not trying to like, you know, sound too old about it, but you know, I look, you know, if that's something you're gonna do, then own it, you know. But also understanding, I know for me, I don't know. I know I don't necessarily make things that sound like this anymore, but you know, I grew up on a lot more of kind of like the older ethos with kind of earning your stuff, and then
Mm-hmm.
on top of that, um, you know, these are hard earned titles, like, you know, and to be appreciated or respected for what you do on top of all that. I mean, that doesn't come easily, especially for, you know, people of a certain vintage of appreciation and era.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm very, very grateful that in the process of me making a bunch of different things, I've actually been able to talk with a lot of people that I respect from that world that
Right.
aren't disowning me for making the music I want to make. And that to me has been the biggest relief.
Well, I think it's because you established like what you were right before you started branching out.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly.
Maybe
But
that plays into it, but also there's just an openness I feel like in music right now, and everything really in life. Well, there's like two sides of everything going on,
right. Duality.
in the world we live in here in Chicago. But pivot a little bit. Tell me about, you got a tour coming up, you got a show coming up.
Well,
You're kind of on the precipice of a lot of things happening here pretty soon.
well, so I mean the big tour was back in May. That was our 3 week extravaganza with my friend Kurta from Denver, who actually isn't from Denver anymore. He lives here. He lives in Bridgeport.
Welcome
What up,
to
Kurta?
south of
We
Roosevelt.
stole you. Yeah, I you know, and then I'm actually gonna be announcing, you know, kind of my next few dates probably next week.
Oh, excuse me, I didn't mean
No,
to,
it's
didn't mean to
cool.
leak it.
Just know we've got some out of town dates in the works, and we're gonna be announcing those next week. Which that was honestly yesterday. I got hit up about one of the things because I've been waiting to hear back from somebody about this gig, and I realized that I'd gone from one gig out of town and some meetings, and then all of a sudden I had 3 gigs out of town in 3 different places, and it just,
Start
I don't
drawing
know.
that line between them.
It's the sort of thing where, you know, it's just the very beginning, and especially after the tour that I had with Kurta. I mean, we had a lot of fun. He's a super awesome dude. You should have him on the show. He's crazy talented and just a complete joy
Definitely.
to be in a car with driving for 5,000
That's a lot to say
miles.
about a person, yeah.
But yeah, you know, him and I played some very, very interesting shows in terms of turnout, mainly turnout. A lot of talented people in America that we met, and we're really had some really wonderful hosts in a lot of places. But for it being our first time in a bunch of different places too, you know, you just don't know what you're gonna get.
Right.
And yeah, so after that experience of kind of dealing with some of the lower ends of what this looks like. I mean, you know, I've traveled a lot, but I haven't toured like that ever. And you know, we made it. You know, we made it back in one piece. We didn't lose money. You know, like it was good. You know, but as I move forward from that experience, you know, I know we've talked about setting up things, you know, for kind of this time of year, and this just happened to work out situationally that we were able to put this all together. But yeah, I just feel like, you know, I feel much better prepared mentally as well as like from like a planning perspective on how we can go about with this being impactful, because you know I'm at a point where
Second time around always is like a little more informed and stuff like
if
that.
you're going, I mean, if you're going back to a place like, you know, this will be my, you know, I'm, you know, I've got some pretty much all returns on this next run, but the yeah, it's just something where being the age I'm at a point where you know, you've known me a long while, and you've seen me go from someone who was obviously here, but then I started traveling a lot within the last 5 years, and so I get around, and it's awesome, and you know, I get to experience a lot of different places and meet awesome, great people, and you know, hopefully perform oftentimes perform or do something creative, and you know, so that's really awesome. But you know, having a family you love is pretty great too. You know, having people you love, you know, like partner, my girlfriend, you know, people like that, they mean a lot as well. So I think it's not that those are things that would keep me from leaving, but it's you know, I have to make sure that if I'm leaving these people that I really care about, that it's for really good reasons. You know,
Hmm.
and the best part is, and it's a lot of thing that a lot of thing the big thing that makes traveling in the first place work for me is, you know, I'm really good at finding silver linings. You know, it's like, okay, so maybe like this didn't go right, but like all these other things did.
Right.
You know, or I met this person, and or you know, I discovered this place and or this venue, and you know, they're into it. You know, for next time. You know, the best thing someone can say to me after a not so great night is, and not so great, I'm usually talking turnout, because you know, there's probably some redeeming qualities in it, is when someone's like, hey, that was really great, I didn't know who you are, but I want to like hook it up next time. And
Yeah.
that's I've seen that come through, you know. I mean, and a bunch of that's informed my perspective, like when it comes to me doing my events at Tonic Room, like with All Smiles, the monthly is, you know, if I can set up something for someone from out of town, you know, that allows them to have a decent night in a major city at minimum. I mean, given what the road can look like in other parts of the country, you know, a decent night in Chicago is great.
Right. Yeah. 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 So kind of paying it back a little bit. That's what's up.
Oh, definitely. You know, this is an ecosystem, nationally, galactically, etc. I skipped to galactically. I kind of went to the triple dog dare quick, but it was worth it.
All right, we're not gonna keep you here too much longer, but tell people what they can expect at the show this weekend,
Oh man, this show is gonna be
and
so great.
yeah,
It's
what to
got
expect on the album. dropping.
Musa, this great MC. He's actually Boyang from the Omais
Shout out
brother.
Boy.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
great MC. Pretty much again, going back to All Smiles. The best one of the best things about All Smiles is I get to see lineups of artists that I really like, and I get to really fan out. And in this instance, you know, all the people that played are, you know, have played All Smiles.
mm-hmm.
So, you know, they're all really
It's like an all-star team of yours.
basically the All Smile All Stars. You know, with him, he's just a really energetic, fun MC. Shawnee Dez,
Yeah,
easily one of the best sets that I've booked.
we actually got a chance to catch her. You can check that out on our Periscope page at the AMFM Feast where she performed. That was like
Nice.
one of the
Yeah.
best sets of the day by
Yeah,
far.
she's a dynamo. And then also Leaf Set, they're really awesome. They actually, a bunch of them stay down the street from here. They're really great dudes that I'm really grateful to have met. And then last but not least, there's some jerk named Rich Jones who's performing. But before all that, I mean, obviously you got a great night of music. With this event, what's really separating it from the previous events I've done is, you know, I decided to put in a food element to it, just because, you know, part of me is I enjoy good food. And I had an opportunity where, you know, I was judging a barbecue contest this summer, and it's a pop-up barbecue group called Manbecue.
Okay.
And yeah, these guys kill it. It's a bunch of just amateur dudes, and some you know, cooks as well, or chefs as well, who like show up. But
Mhm.
there's people that just, you know, they set up a bunch of big grills and people cook their stuff, and everyone kind of like a big meat potluck.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so, you know, we were drinking a bunch of beers and eating ribs and burgers and all sorts of things. And I just said, you know, I got this release show coming up in the fall. I'd love if we could do like a fall barbecue on the patio at the venue. And they were like instantly in. You know, like, and we'll make a call this week, but yeah, we're all in. So yeah, I'm super excited to see what they came up with. I'm personally a little concerned for myself, because I know the food's gonna be really good, but I also don't want to fall asleep while I'm performing. So I think
like a
it
full
probably,
stomach
yeah,
up
just
there.
like I do the whole show from a couch, just like leaned out. Like,
Just, yeah,
pass
pants
me a
unbuttoned
rib,
and shit.
and give me, I need an Alka-Seltzer and a cold towel, and for the lights to be dimmed very low, as in please turn them out, because it's just I can't take it.
Yeah, so get out this weekend, catch Rich Jones, stuffed full of food, rapping about things
Yeah.
and singing about other things.
Yeah, rapping and singing. Sleeping Village, Saturday, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. is the barbecue. 8 p.m. doors for the show. 9 p.m. kickoff for the show. And that's going to be at Sleeping Village, which is just east of Milwaukee and Belmont. It looks like a veterinarian office, and it's awesome. from the outside. Inside, it's like
It doesn't look like a
yeah,
veterinary office
it's
inside.
great. I honestly, when Billy from the Whistler first hit me up to come and check it out, I unfortunately wasn't able to, but I just kept hearing from people that did get to kind of peep it before they opened it, just how cool it was. And then when I did get there, I just was instantly like, well, this is just perfect.
Yeah, no, I love that space. So, like the dugout underneath and like the low ceiling is beautiful.
You know, plus the
It's got an intimate vibe to it.
intimate vibe. The snack selection's great. They got kind of the brewery sausages, and then with the selection of beer and alcohol, it's just yeah, it's really superb. I'm not necessarily Mr. Fancy when it comes to that sort of thing, but it's all reasonably priced as well, which I love. You know,
Right.
if I'm gonna go to a show, that's like such a hazard. Like you go to House of Blues and it's gonna be, you know, a gajillion dollars. Like
Right.
I made a joke to someone that worked at House of Blues at an event that I was working production on a few months ago, just about like $25 beers or something, and like he did not laugh. And he was like, "Are you taking a jab?" And I'm like, "I mean, no, but beers are expensive, right?"
Damn.
I lied. I was kind of taking a jab. I should have been honest.
Shots fired at
Yeah,
House of Blues.
I mean, not really. I mean, like it's the House of Blues.
It's a pretty innocent
What
shot.
do you want, man? What do you want? You're next to the Marina Towers in River North. I mean, I can't afford to.
Smith and Walensky's around the corner. Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
you're selling like
that is
$150
not my
steaks.
budget. You know, on a good day, we're not even thinking that. You know what I mean? You know, but these things are what they are.
But anyway, Sleeping Village, Saturday night. Album out tomorrow.
Yeah, the Shoulder You Lean On drops. I mean, technically midnight, so T minus 3 minutes, 3 hours and 49 minutes. You heard it here first.
And
If you've ever heard about it at all, it's probably right now. So yeah, you are hearing it here first.
Here we go.
Yeah.
So it'll be out at midnight. You can get it on SoundCloud, Spotify, your local car dealership, and
Not yet. We're still working on the car dealer plug, but richjonesmusic.net
tapes.
is where that lives. Yeah, more on that later, but I can't divulge. But yeah,
Alright.
there is some pretty cool physical versions of this that are allegedly on their way.
Very cool. All right. Keep an eye out for that. Catch Rich this weekend. Grab the project. Check it out. And, man, thank you for coming through.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Appreciate
Appreciate it.
We'll be back again soon. For now, we're going to jump to some singles from Rich's album. And then we have Chicago's best new singles coming up right after that. It's been Mild Sauce Live. It's kind of hot.
Bam.
Hey.